Barefoot and dying, Apache woman begged the rancher, "Let me stay, I'll be your wife." The sun was low in the sky when the rancher finished closing the last gate of the day. The light turned the open land gold, and long shadows stretched across the dry ground. He liked this quiet time. It was the only moment when the world felt slow and gentle. The wind moved through the grass, and the sound reminded him that the land was alive, even when everything else felt still. He picked up his hat from the fence post and turned toward his house, ready for a simple meal and a long night of rest. That was when he noticed something near the edge of his land. At first, he thought it was just a shadow or a fallen branch. But then it moved. He froze. The shape lifted its head, and he saw a woman. She was lying near the fence, her body covered in dust. Her dark hair was tangled and her clothes were worn thin. Her feet were bare, red, and swollen from walking for too long on hard ground. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out, and she fell back to her knees. The rancher felt his heart tighten. He had lived alone for many years, far from the town, far from trouble. He liked it that way. People brought problems, and problems brought pain. But this woman was not trouble. She looked like someone who had already been through too much. He walked closer, slow and careful, not wanting to scare her. "Easy," he said, his voice calm and low. "I won't hurt you." The woman lifted her head. Her eyes were wide and tired, but there was a sharp strength in them, too. She looked at him like a person who had learned not to trust anyone. Her hands shook as she tried to push herself up again. "I just need a place," she whispered. Her voice was dry, like she had not had water in a long time. "Just for the night." The rancher looked around. There was no one else in sight. The land was empty, quiet, and open. He took off his hat and held it against his chest for a moment, thinking. "Come," he said. "I have water." He led her to a small wooden bench near the barn. He poured water from his canteen into a cup and handed it to her. She took it with both hands and drank slowly, like she was afraid it might disappear if she went too fast. He noticed her feet then. The skin was cracked and dirty, and small cuts covered her soles. Walking this far without shoes would hurt anyone. He went inside the barn and came back with a clean cloth and a small bowl of water. "Let me help," he said. She hesitated, then slowly nodded. He knelt down and gently cleaned her feet, careful not to press too hard. She flinched once, but she did not pull away. When he finished, he wrapped the cloth around her feet to protect them. "Thank you," she said quietly. They sat in silence for a moment. The sky began to change colors, turning soft pink and deep orange. Birds flew overhead, heading home for the night.
"My name is Thomas,"
he said finally. She looked at him. "Isla," she replied. The name hung in the air between them. He could tell she wanted to say more, but the words were heavy in her chest. He did not push. He knew what it felt like to carry pain that did not want to be spoken. "You can stay in the barn tonight," he said. "It's warm and dry." Isla's shoulders dropped a little, like she had been holding her breath for hours and could finally let it go. As they walked inside, she stumbled. He reached out and caught her arm. She was lighter than he expected, like the wind could carry her away if he let go. Inside the barn, the smell of hay and wood filled the air. He laid down a blanket and gave her another cup of water and some bread. She ate slowly, her eyes never leaving his face, as if she was waiting for something to change. "Why are you here?" he asked gently. She looked down at her hands. They were rough and marked by long days and hard work. "I was sent away," she said. I was caught. The town did not want me. They said I brought problems. They said I did not belong. Thomas felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. He had seen how people could turn cold when they did not understand someone. "So you walked?" he said. She nodded. "I walked until my feet could not carry me any more." The barn grew quiet again. The night air came in through the open door, cool and calm. Crickets began to sing in the distance. Ayla stood up slowly and took a step toward him. Her hands trembled. "I will work," she said quickly. "I will clean, cook, help with the land. I will do anything." Thomas raised his hands, trying to calm her. "You don't have to promise anything," he said. "You just need rest." She shook her head, her eyes filling with tears she refused to let fall. "I can't go back out there," she said. "I can't walk anymore. I can't run."
"I have nothing left."
Her voice broke. She took another step closer. "Let me stay," she whispered. "Please." Thomas felt something shift inside him. He had helped people before, but this felt different. This was not just about giving water or a bed for the night. This was about a life standing at the edge of falling apart. Ayla swallowed and spoke again, her words slow and careful. "I will be your wife," she said. "If that is what it takes, I will belong here. I just need to belong somewhere." The words hit him like a sudden storm. He stepped back, not in anger, but in shock. "No," he said softly. "You don't owe me anything like that." She looked confused, like she had expected him to accept, maybe even demand it. "That is what people always want," she said. Thomas felt a deep sadness in his chest. "I'm not people," he replied. "I'm just a man with a ranch and a quiet life. And right now you are a person who needs help." Ayla stared at him, trying to understand. He pulled a chair closer and sat down, letting the silence stretch again. "You can stay," he said. "Not because of a promise, not because of fear. Just because you need a place." Her knees buckled, and she sat down on the blanket, covering her face with her hands. This time, she let the tears fall. Thomas stood by the door, giving her space, watching the moon rise over the land. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. He did not know what the town would say if they found out she was here. He did not know how this choice would change his life. But for the first time in many years, the quiet did not feel empty. Morning came slowly over the ranch. A pale light spread across the land, touching the grass and the old wooden fence with soft color. Birds called to each other from far trees, and the wind carried the smell of fresh air and dry soil. Thomas woke before the sun fully rose. He always did. It was a habit built from years of working the land. He sat up on the edge of his bed and listened. The ranch felt different. Not louder, not busier, just different. He remembered Ayla in the barn, wrapped in a blanket, finally sleeping after a long night of fear, and walking. He pulled on his boots and stepped outside. The air was cool, and the sky was wide and open above him. For a moment he stood still, letting the quiet settle in his chest. Then he walked toward the barn. The door was still open, just like he had left it. Inside, Ayla was awake. She sat on the blanket, holding the cup he had given her, looking around like she was afraid the place might vanish if she looked away. "Good morning," Thomas said softly. She looked up quickly, then relaxed when she saw him. "Good morning," she replied. He handed her a small plate with bread and a piece of fruit. "You should eat," he said. "You need strength." She took it and thanked him. As she ate, he leaned against the doorframe, watching her. The light from outside touched her face, showing the tired lines around her eyes, but also something stronger. She did not look like someone who planned to give up. After she finished, she stood up and brushed off the blanket. "I can help," she said. "Tell me what to do." Thomas hesitated. He had not planned this part. He had planned to be alone, like always. "You don't have to work today," he said. "You should rest." She shook her head. "If I sit still, my mind goes back to the road." "I don't want to think about that." He nodded. He understood that feeling. "All right," he said. "You can help me with the animals." They walked together toward the small pen where he kept his goats and chickens. Isla moved slowly at first, her feet still sore, but she did not complain. She watched everything carefully, like she wanted to learn how this place worked. Thomas showed her how to fill the water trough and scatter food. She copied his movements, careful and quiet. "You've done this before," he said. She smiled a little.
Not like this.
"But I know how to take care of things that cannot speak for themselves." Her words stayed with him. As the morning passed, they worked side by side. They did not talk much, but the silence felt easy, not heavy. The sun climbed higher, warming the land. Later, they sat under the shade of a tree to rest. Thomas finally asked, "Where did you come from?" Isla looked out across the open field. "My family lived near the hills," she said. "We had a small place, not much, but it was ours." She paused, choosing her words. "Then sickness came. It took my mother first, then my father. My brothers left to find work and never came back. I waited, but they did not return." Thomas listened, his hands resting on his knees. "So I left," she continued. "I thought I could find a new place, a new start. But people saw me and only saw someone different, someone easy to push away." Her voice grew quieter. "They said I brought trouble. They said I should not stay. Some were kind, but most were not." Thomas felt a slow anger rise, but he kept his voice calm. "That town doesn't get to decide who you are," he said. Isla looked at him. They already did. Before he could reply, the sound of horses came from the road. Thomas stood up. 2 men from town rode toward the ranch. He recognized them. They often spoke loud and liked to ask questions that were not their business. Isla stiffened. "Stay here," Thomas said quietly. He walked forward as the men stopped near the fence. "Morning," one of them said, looking past Thomas toward the barn. "We heard you had a visitor." Thomas crossed his arms. "Just someone passing through," he said. The second man narrowed his eyes. "Funny. Someone told us she was an Apache woman, that she came here asking to stay." Thomas felt his jaw tighten. "She's tired and needed water," he said.
"That's all." The men exchanged looks. "You know how people talk," the first one said.
"They say she brings problems. We don't want trouble near town." Thomas stepped closer to the fence. "This isn't town," he said. "This is my land." The men studied him for a long moment. "Just be careful," the second one said. "We don't want to hear about anything strange happening out here." They turned their horses and rode away. Thomas stood there until they were out of sight. When he walked back, Ayla was still under the tree. She had heard enough to understand. "They don't want me here," she said softly. Thomas sat beside her. "They don't get to choose," he replied. "I do." She looked at him, surprised. "You would stand against them?" she asked. "I already did," he said. The rest of the day passed quietly, but the air felt different now. The world outside the ranch had noticed her presence. That evening, Isla helped Thomas prepare a simple meal. They sat at the small table in his house, the first time he had shared it with someone in years. "This place feels safe," she said. Thomas looked around. The walls were plain. The floor was worn. But for the first time he saw it through her eyes. "Maybe," he said, "but safety is something you build, not something you find." As night came, Ayla stood near the window, looking at the stars. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring," she said. Thomas stood beside her. "Neither do I," he replied. "But you don't have to face it alone tonight." She nodded. Outside, the land rested under the dark sky, quiet but watching, like it knew this was only the beginning of something that would change them both. The next morning, the wind carried a strange feeling across the ranch. It was not strong, but it was restless, like the land itself was waiting for something to happen. Thomas felt it as soon as he stepped outside. The sky was clear, but his chest felt heavy. Ayla was already awake. She stood near the barn, slowly walking back and forth to ease the pain in her feet. She had wrapped them in clean cloth again, and she moved carefully, like every step mattered.
You should rest more,
Thomas said. She shook her head. "If I stop moving, I start thinking. Thinking makes the fear come back." Thomas did not argue. He understood that feeling too well. They worked together again, fixing a loose board on the fence and checking the water for the animals. The day felt longer than usual. Every sound from the road made Isla look up, her eyes searching the distance. Around midday, Thomas heard voices. He froze. A small group of people from town was walking toward the ranch. Men and women, not riding horses this time, but coming on foot. They stopped at the fence, standing close together like they were stronger when they stayed in a group. Isla saw them too. Her hands began to shake. Thomas stepped in front of her without thinking. "What do you want?" he called out. One of the men stepped forward. He was older, with a hard face and tired eyes. "We came to talk," he said. "About the woman." Thomas did not move.
She is not something to talk about, he replied. She is a person.
The man frowned. "People in town are worried. They say she brings trouble. They say strange things happen when she is around." Isla took a step back, her heart pounding in her chest. "I haven't done anything," she said, her voice barely loud enough to reach them. Another woman in the group crossed her arms. "You don't understand. We have families. We want things to stay peaceful." Thomas felt anger rise inside him, but he kept his voice steady. "Peace does not come from pushing someone away," he said. "It comes from treating people right." The group grew quiet. Some looked at the ground. Others stared at Ayla like they were trying to decide who she really was. The older man spoke again. "We're asking you to send her away." Thomas did not hesitate. "No," he said. The word was simple, but it felt strong in the air. Ayla looked at him, surprised. She had not expected him to stand so firm. "This is my land," Thomas continued. "She stays because I say she stays." There was a long silence. Finally, the group turned and walked away, their footsteps slow and uncertain. Thomas let out a breath he did not know he was holding. Isla sat down on the ground, her legs weak. "You didn't have to do that," she said.
Yes, I did, Thomas replied. Because it was right. That night, Ayla did not sleep in the barn.
Thomas had brought a small bed into the house for her. It was not much, but it was warm. The house felt different again. The quiet was no longer empty. It was full of soft sounds, like the fire in the corner and the gentle movement of another person breathing in the same space. Later, they sat by the fire, not talking, just listening to the wood crackle. "I don't understand why you helped me," Isla said suddenly. Thomas looked at the flames. "Because once, a long time ago, someone helped me," he said. She waited, giving him time. "I lost my family too," he continued. "Not the same way as you, but I lost them. I walked away from town because I did not want to feel that pain anymore. I thought being alone would make it go away." "Did it?" she asked. "No," he said. "It just made the silence louder." Isla nodded. "Get in." She understood. The days that followed were hard but steady. Some people in town stopped coming near the ranch. Others began to wave from a distance. A few even brought small gifts, like bread or tools, leaving them at the gate without saying much. Isla noticed everything. "They are changing," she said one evening. "Maybe," Thomas replied. "Or maybe they are just learning." Isla started to take care of a small garden near the house. She planted seeds in the dry ground, talking softly to the soil like it could hear her. "What are you doing?" Thomas asked once. "Helping something grow," she said. "It reminds me that I can grow too." One afternoon, a young boy from town came riding up alone. He stopped at the fence, looking nervous. "My mother sent this," he said, holding out a basket of apples. Isla walked forward slowly. The boy looked at her, curious but not afraid. "Thank you," she said, taking the basket. The boy smiled and rode away. Ayla watched him go, her eyes shining. "That never happened before," she whispered. Thomas smiled. That night, a storm rolled in. The wind howled, and rain hit the roof like 1,000 small hands. Isla sat up in bed, her breath quick. Thomas heard her and came to the door. "It's just the storm," he said gently. She nodded, but she did not lie back down. He sat in the chair nearby, staying with her until the thunder faded and the rain slowed. "You're not alone," he said. She believed him. The storm passed, leaving the land fresh and clean. The next morning, sunlight touched the garden Ayla had planted. Small green shoots pushed through the soil. Isla knelt down, her hand shaking as she touched them. "They made it," she said, smiling. Thomas stood behind her. "So did you," he replied. She looked up at him, and for the first time she did not see just a man who gave her shelter. She saw a place where her life could finally begin again. The ranch, once quiet and empty, now felt like something more than land and walls. The days began to move in a gentle rhythm. Morning light came through the window, touching the floor and the small table where Thomas and Isla now shared simple meals. The ranch no longer felt like a place where time stood still. It felt like a place where time moved forward, step by step. Isla's feet healed slowly, but she walked with more strength each day. She helped with the animals, the garden, and the small tasks around the house. She learned how Thomas liked his tools placed, how he fixed a loose board, how he checked the sky before deciding what work to do. Thomas learned how Ayla hummed when she was tired, how she talked to the plants as if they were old friends, how she paused before every important choice. One afternoon they were repairing a section of fence near the road. The sun was warm and the air was still. Isla stopped and looked down the path that led to town. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. Thomas thought for a moment. "Sometimes I miss the sound of people," he said. "But I don't miss the noise they make in my head." She nodded. "I miss my family's voices," she said. "I miss hearing my mother laugh." Thomas rested his hand on the fence.
"I'm sorry," he said. Ayla smiled softly.
"I carry them with me. That helps." As the weeks passed, more people from town began to walk by the ranch. Some just nodded. Some waved. A few even stopped to talk. They asked about the garden, the animals, the weather. They asked Ayla simple questions, like where she learned to grow things, or how she kept the chickens so calm. At first, Ayla answered carefully, like every word had to be measured. But over time, her voice grew stronger. One woman from town, named Clara, came often. She brought bread and stayed to talk. One day she asked Ayla to show her how to plant seeds the way she did. They knelt in the dirt together, hands in the soil. "You're good at this," Clara said. Ayla smiled. "The land listens if you listen to it." Thomas watched from a distance. He felt something warm in his chest. The ranch was becoming a place where people came, not a place they avoided. That evening, as the sky turned orange and purple, Ayla and Thomas sat on the steps of the house. "I used to think I had to run forever," Ayla said. "I thought stopping meant something bad would happen." "And now?" Thomas asked. "Now I think stopping can mean something good," she replied. "Dobe! Dobe!" The wind moved through the grass, soft and steady. A few days later, a man from town came with a wagon. He offered to help fix the roof of the barn. Thomas was surprised, but he accepted. Soon, 2 more people joined. They worked together, passing tools and sharing water. The sound of laughter floated across the land. Ayla stood nearby, watching. "They are not afraid anymore," she said quietly. "No," Thomas replied. They're learning. That night, Thomas found Ayla standing by the window, looking at the stars. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "I'm thinking about the promise I made when I came here," she said. He remembered her words from that first night. He felt his chest tighten. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "I know," she replied. "That's why this feels different now." She turned to face him. "I stay because I want to," she said, "not because I have to." Thomas felt a quiet strength in her words. They began to walk together more, talking about small things, about the way the clouds moved, about the sound of rain on the roof, about memories that made them smile and memories that still hurt. One afternoon they went to the edge of the land where the hills rose in the distance. Ayla stopped and closed her eyes, letting the wind touch her face. "This feels like my home used to feel," she said. Thomas stood beside her. "Then maybe it can be your home again," he said. Ayla opened her eyes and looked at him. "Maybe it already is," she replied. That night, they sat by the fire again. The light danced on the walls, making soft shadows. "Do you ever think about the future?" Ayla asked. Thomas stared into the flames. "I didn't used to," he said. "I was just trying to get through each day." "And now?" she asked. "And now I think about what this place could be," he said. "What we could build." She smiled. Not a wide smile, but a real one. A few days later, a letter arrived from town. Someone had written about a small gathering. They wanted to invite Thomas and Ayla. Ayla held the paper with shaking hands. "They want us to come?" she asked.
Ah.
Thomas nodded. "Looks like it." She was quiet for a long time. "What if they don't really mean it?" she said. Thomas placed the letter on the table. "We won't know unless we try," he said. The day of the gathering came. Ayla wore a simple dress that Clara had helped her sew. Thomas brushed his coat and hat. As they walked into town together, people stopped and looked. Some smiled. Some nodded. A few even stepped forward to greet them. The gathering was small. There was food on tables and music playing softly. Children ran past, laughing. Ayla stood close to Thomas at first, but slowly, people began to talk to her. They asked about the garden, the ranch, the animals. They listened when she spoke. A young girl took Ayla's hand and led her toward the table of food. "Come," the girl said. "You have to try this." Ayla laughed, surprised by the sound of her own voice. Thomas watched her, feeling something deep and steady inside him. On the walk back to the ranch that evening, the sky was full of stars. "I was scared," Ayla said, "but it wasn't like I thought." "Most things aren't," Thomas replied. They stopped at the gate and looked at the land stretching out in front of them. "This place changed me," Ayla said. Thomas shook his head. "You changed this place," he said. She smiled. As they walked toward the house, a light from the window welcomed them. The ranch was no longer just a shelter from the world. It was a place of choice, a place of belonging. The morning light touched the ranch in a soft and gentle way. It felt different from other mornings, like the air itself was holding a quiet promise. Thomas stood outside with a cup of warm drink in his hands, watching the sun rise over the open land. The sky was wide and calm, painted in slow colors of gold and pale blue. Inside the house, Ayla moved quietly. She had woken early too. Sleep had been light, not because of fear, but because her thoughts were full. She stepped outside and stood beside Thomas. They did not speak at first. They did not need to. The land, the sky, and the soft wind said enough. "I never thought I would wake up in a place like this," Ayla said at last. Thomas looked at her.
What kind of place?
He asked. "A place where I don't feel like I have to run," she replied. He nodded. They spent the morning working in the garden. The small plants Ayla had planted weeks ago were now taller, their leaves bright and alive. She touched them gently, like greeting old friends. "They grew," she said, smiling. "So did you," Thomas replied. Later that day, Clara came riding up with 2 other people from town. They brought tools and a basket of food. They said they wanted to help fix the old shed near the back of the ranch. Thomas was surprised, but he welcomed them. They worked together, passing boards and nails, sharing water and small jokes. Ayla brought out bread and fruit. Everyone sat in the shade when the sun became too strong. For the first time, the ranch felt like a place where many voices belonged. That evening, after everyone left, Ayla and Thomas walked the fence line. The grass moved in the wind, and the sound felt like a soft song. "Do you remember the first night I came here?" Ayla asked. Thomas stopped walking. "I remember," he said. "I was scared," she said. "I thought every door would close on me." "And now?" he asked. "And now I feel like this land opened its arms," she replied. Thomas felt a quiet warmth in his chest. They reached the hill where they could see the whole ranch. The house, the barn, the garden, and the long fence stretched out below them. "This place was empty before," Thomas said. "Not just without people, but without hope." Ayla looked at him. "And now? And now it feels like something that can grow," he said. Ayla sat down on a rock, her hands resting on her knees. "Thomas," she said softly. He sat beside her. "I don't know what the future looks like," she said. "I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I know I don't want to face it alone." Thomas listened carefully. He had spent many years believing that being alone was safer, that it kept pain away. But Ayla had shown him something else. She had shown him that sharing the weight of life made it lighter. "You don't have to face it alone," he said. "Not here. Not with me." Ayla looked at him, her eyes full of quiet strength. They did not speak of big promises. They did not speak of grand plans. They spoke of small things. They talked about building a better fence near the creek, about adding more plants to the garden, about helping Clara teach the children from town how to grow food. The future did not feel like a far and scary place anymore. It felt like a path they could walk, step by step. As the days passed, Isla began to visit the town more often. She helped Clara in her small shop. She talked with children who asked her questions about the garden and the animals. Some people still looked at her with unsure eyes. But most smiled now. Most greeted her by name. One afternoon, a man from town approached Thomas. "You did a good thing," he said, letting her stay. Thomas nodded. "She did a good thing, too," he replied. "She showed us how to be better." That evening, Ayla and Thomas sat at the table, sharing a simple meal. "I used to think my life was only about surviving," Ayla said. "About getting through one more day. And now," Thomas asked. "And now I think my life can be about living," she said. Thomas smiled. They began to make small changes to the ranch together. They painted the old door. They fixed the broken steps. They planted more trees near the edge of the land. Each small task felt like a promise to the future. One night, a soft rain fell. Isla stood in the doorway watching the drops touch the ground. "I used to hate the rain," she said. "It made the road harder to walk." "And now?" Thomas asked. "And now it feels like something new beginning," she replied. The seasons slowly changed. The land grew greener. The air became warmer. The ranch was no longer a quiet place where one man lived alone. It was a place where people came, a place where stories were shared, a place where laughter sometimes filled the air. One day, Ayla and Thomas stood at the fence as a group of children walked by on their way back to town. The children waved and called out to Ayla. She waved back, her face bright. "I never thought anyone would be happy to see me," she said softly. Thomas looked at her. "They see who you are now," he said. "And who am I?" she asked. "You're someone who belongs," he replied. That night, under a sky full of stars, Ayla and Thomas sat on the steps of the house. The world felt quiet, but not empty. "I'm glad I didn't walk past this place," Isla said. "I'm glad you didn't," Thomas replied. They sat there for a long time, listening to the night. The woman who once came barefoot and tired, asking for a place to stay, now sat with her feet resting on the ground she helped care for. She was no longer someone looking for shelter. She was someone who had found a home. And Thomas, the man who once believed he needed no one, now knew that life was not meant to be walked alone. The ranch, the land, and the quiet sky above them held their story. Not a story of fear or running, but a story of choosing to stay, choosing to care.